Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Beastly Eel. And in today's video we're going to be talking about Spider-Noir, the series. So, the reason why I'm doing this video so much later than when this show came out, one, just busy in general, but the real thing I wanted to do, to be honest with you, is to watch it twice. Once in black and white, like I feel like it was meant to be, and then once in color, just to kind of see if anything changes. So overall, the story is of Spider-Noir basically giving up being the Spider. Ben Reilly is a private detective. He was the Spider for a while. He lost his fiance. Well, she wasn't his fiance yet, but she had died, and then he gave up being the Spider and kind of just became a drunk, and kind of just kept being a what's it called, a private investigator, and kind of just forgot being about the Spider anymore. So he has a friend, Robbie, who is a journalist, and then we have Janet, who is the secretary to Ben. And this takes place 5 years after he gave up being the Spider, and that's when all of a sudden all these soups became to be a part of the world now. Apparently there are four people that we see in this series other than the Spider. I'm sorry, well technically five. Before main bad guys, at least in the beginning, we see the Malted Man, who burns down Silvermane's house to try to kill him. We then find out that he was paid for by Cat Hardy, who is the dancer and #1 gal of Silvermane. And then we have her boyfriend and an enforcer for Silvermane, who turns into the Sandman, who then disappears and comes back, all the stuff. There's a lot of detective work and kind of manipulation we see throughout this whole thing to kind of protect Cat Hardy from getting killed as being the rat for Silvermane. We then meet Lonnie Lincoln, who apparently has a rock hard skin. And it turns out that all these people, and then we have Megawatt, who can absorb electricity and shoot it out. So what we find out is all these people were part of a camp in Germany where they were captured by the enemy, and they were experimented on to splice their DNA to see if they could create... It's unclear if they were trying to create monsters per se, but I would imagine they were trying to make weapons at the very least. So what they were trying to do was splice the DNA of a specific creature to human. And what was happening was it was deteriorating the DNA of the humans to the point where they were partially transforming into these creatures, and most of them, if not all of them, well, most of them, I should say, died. When Ben was there, he got bit by this man spider, which then gave him the powers of the Spider. And his, apparently, mutation, because it wasn't done technically directly to his DNA, he survived because he was bit by one of the experiments and not actually experimented on. But apparently the US government saw this as an opportunity to try to copy the German doctors and tried to recreate and create like super soldiers from him. So he escapes, changes his name to Ben Reilly, and gets out of there as quickly as possible, and then later becomes the Spider. We had Lonnie Lincoln, who was spliced with an alligator. We had Megawatt, who was spliced with an eel. We have this other guy who apparently ages well. We don't know what he was spliced with. I'm now thinking dog after just watching the colored version, just because he says, I age like a dog, which I thought was interesting. But I felt like it was all reptiles and insects and things of that nature. So I'd be very surprised if it was a dog, but who knows. And then we don't know about Sandman or the guy who lights himself on fire. Because I don't think we officially know he's Molten Man. But anyway, the whole idea is then all these guys are now under the payroll of Silvermane, and Ben gets captured by the scientist of the man who's aging very rapidly, to the point where she's able to find a cure thanks to using Ben's liver. Creates an antidote and saves her son, giving him back his youthful looks. And then he grabs the antidote before getting out of there, and the whole place being burnt down by Silverman. So we have this whole thing go on. Now his idea is to try to stop these mobsters from taking over the city. The first one he takes down is Lonnie, which was not easy because the syringes couldn't break his skin. However, Robbie was able to stab him in the eye and caused him to be back to normal. And he leaves, going to Niagara Falls to be with his mother. We then had Megawatt gets killed because Spider-Man throws him at the spider throws him at a train and kills him. As for the Sandman, who nearly got killed by Megawatt, gets the antidote, and the spider stays the spider. Silvermane gets killed by Cat Hardy, and the mayor stays the mayor, and Robbie runs the Herald. Cat and the Sandman are together, and then we have Ben and Janet running the private investigators together, and that's how it ends right then and there. So overall, I mean, this was an incredible story. I will not lie. I do have to say, if I had to choose between the two, I feel like the way the tone of the show was, the black and white works better for majority of it. I do feel like there were certain points where color was better, but it was far and few in between. So a lot of like the monstrous stuff and like being in the shadows and everything else looked a heck of a lot better in black and white. However, when it came to the powers of Sandman, the Fire Guy, and Megawatt, color did look better. However, I will state this about Megawatt. For whatever the reason, when it was in color and he was doing his monologues, I felt like it didn't work as well that when I saw it in black and white. Now, just a me thing, it's a personal thing, but I definitely feel that way. Like I said, a lot of the colors for like the costumes and stuff like that, where I thought were really cool, because I saw it first in black and white, thought it was incredible. I was like, oh, this is really awesome, all this stuff. There was a lot of textures in the color to really distinguish the different things that were being seen. However, when you see it in color, you didn't need those textures, obviously, anymore, mostly due to the fact that we had the vibrant colors. And it did change a little bit of how it felt. Like I said, certain parts looked better, but mostly all of like the spider stuff that he was doing, that lacked when it was in color, in my personal opinion. I just felt like those scenes were definitely better in black and white, especially like minus the fire piece. But most of the stuff that was going on with Ben in the very beginning when he was hunting down the guy on fire, that needed to be black and white. And I just, like I said, it was definitely interesting, but and like I said, the Sandman, seeing the different color in his face for the sand was huge. I feel Megawatt with his electricity also worked well. Not to say it didn't work both ways. I do feel like the color did look better. Lonnie, I personally think it didn't matter. I think because his skin just got, it was more of the texture thing, where his didn't matter whether it was color in black and white, because it was just showing the hardness of his skin. But yeah, overall, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I really hope they do something else with it, or at least kind of expand on that universe, because the noir universe is pretty cool. I do like it. I like the way they did it. The writing was well done. Very little swearing because it's in the 30s, and honestly, it works. The action was incredible. There was a lot of slapstick comedy in it as well. You know, it was a kind of a mixture of like giving me the Three Stooges aesthetic, along with obviously like the old school detective shows, all kind of mixed in together, which I thought were really a great element. And Nicolas Cage as Ben Riley was great. The acting was incredible. The guy who played Megawatt, I thought, was wonderful. His monologues were perfect. Silvermane was also excellent. The wit, which probably was more of the writing than it was for the actress herself, but the interactions between Kat and Ben were incredible. And then to a certain point, when it was her and Silvermane, it was also incredible as well. Just so well done in that sense. And I was very happy with it. The only complaint I would have had was just the fact that it all came out at once, and I kind of binge watched it twice because I have no self control. But other than that, that's like my only thing I would say. But that being said, I thought it was an incredible show. I hope more shows like this come out. But let me know what you guys thought about this series down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.